I mean, who actually pays people to finger paint for a living? Dylan's voice slices through the restaurant like a blade. The leather booth suddenly feels too small. His parents laugh, not the polite kind, but the genuine kind that tells me they've been waiting to say this themselves. I watch my husband's mouth move, forming words that feel designed to wound. We're at Marcello's, the upscale Italian place his mother chose for our anniversary dinner. White tablecloths. Candlelight. Kind of place where humiliation tastes expensive. I told her she should have done something practical, Dylan continues, swirling his wine. Business, accounting, literally anything with job security. But hey, at least her art degree looks pretty in a frame. His father chuckles into his scotch. His mother, Victoria, dabs her lips with her napkin, but I catch the smirk underneath. The waiter approaching our table stops mid-step, sensing the tension, and pivots away. My nails dig crescents into my palms under the table. I force my face into something resembling a smile, but inside, something ancient and furious is waking up. Dylan lifts his glass higher. To Mara's creative spirit. May it one day pay the bills. The glasses clink around me. Crystal meeting crystal. Sound feels like a small death. I raise mine too. I even manage to smile. But in that moment, sitting in that restaurant with 3 people who think I'm a joke, I made myself a promise. You're going to regret every single word. Car ride home is silent except for the radio playing some top 40 song I can't focus on. Dylan hums along, tapping his fingers on the steering wheel like nothing happened. Like he didn't just eviscerate me in front of his parents for sport. You're quiet, he says eventually, glancing over. I stare out the window at the Atlanta skyline. The lights blur through the glass, streaking like wet paint on canvas. You embarrassed me, I say. My voice comes out steadier than I feel. He scoffs, actually scoffs. Oh, come on. It was a joke. Don't be so sensitive. It wasn't funny. My parents thought it was. He switches lanes without signaling. Look, I'm just being realistic. You've been doing this art thing for years, and what do you have to show for it? A few pieces hanging in our guest room that nobody sees. I close my eyes. When I open them, I see our reflection in the window. Him driving, me beside him, looking like strangers who happen to share an address. You used to love my art, I whisper. I loved you, he corrects. The art was just part of the package. But we're adults now, Mara. We have a mortgage. We have responsibilities. I can't keep pretending your hobby is going to turn into something real. Hobby. That word sits in my chest like a stone. We pull into our driveway. The house, his dream house, chosen by him, decorated by his mother, looms in the darkness. I sit there for a moment after he kills the engine. You coming? He asks, already halfway out. In a minute. He shrugs and heads inside, leaving me alone in the car, sitting in the dark, realizing that the man I married doesn't see me anymore. He sees a decoration. An accessory. Something to arrange and forget about. My name is Mara Ellis, and I'm 32 years old. For the first 3 years of my marriage, I believed that love meant making yourself smaller so the other person could feel bigger. I believed that compromise meant giving up the things you loved because someone else thought they were impractical. I believed Dylan when he said he fell for my artistic soul. When he showed up at my senior art show at Savannah College of Art and Design with flowers and that crooked smile. When he said I was different from all the corporate girls he usually dated. Different. He made it sound like magic. I should have known that eventually different becomes difficult. Magic becomes inconvenient. And the things he loved about you transformed into ammunition. We met 7 years ago. I was 25, 1 year out of grad school, working at a small gallery during the day and painting at night in my tiny studio apartment. He was 28, already climbing the ladder at his family's commercial real estate firm. He swept into the gallery one afternoon, looking for art for his new office. He spent an hour asking about my favorite painters, my technique, my inspiration. He asked me to dinner before he even looked at the price tag. For 2 years, he was my biggest fan. He bragged about dating an artist. He brought clients to shows I was featured in. He loved watching me paint. He said it was like watching someone speak a different language. Then we got married. And slowly, so slowly I barely noticed, everything changed. Dylan's family operates on a different frequency than normal people. They're not wealthy in the flashy way, no yacht, no private jet, but they have something more insidious, old Southern money and the connections that come with it. His father, Warren, owns half the commercial properties in Buckhead. His mother, Victoria, sits on boards for every charity luncheon and fundraiser worth attending. They summer in Charleston, winter in Naples, and look at anyone outside their circle like they're studying an unfamiliar species. I was that species. The first time Dylan brought me home, Victoria took one look at my thrift store dress and vintage earrings and said, "How bohemian!" The word hung in the air like an insult wrapped in politeness. She asked what my parents did. I said my dad was a high school English teacher and my mom was a nurse. She nodded slowly, like I'd just confirmed something unfortunate. How wonderful! Public servants. Dylan squeezed my hand under the table. The time I thought it was support. Now I realize it was a warning to play along. Over the years, Victoria's comments became a steady drip of disapproval. "Have you thought about a real career?" she'd ask over brunch. "Dylan's working so hard. It must be nice to have hobbies." Warren was less direct but no less dismissive. He'd ask about my projects with the kind of tone you use when asking a child about their imaginary friend. Once, when I mentioned selling a painting for $800, he laughed and said, "Well, every bit helps, I suppose." They made me feel like I was playing dress-up in their world. Like I'd never quite belong, no matter how many of their dinners I attended or how many times I bit my tongue. The small cuts started subtly. Dylan began moving my canvases from our living room to the garage. "Just to make more space," he said. "My boss might stop by and I want the place to look professional." Professional apparently meant erasing any evidence that I existed beyond our wedding photos. One canvas, a piece I'd spent 3 months on, layer after layer of oil paint building texture and depth, ended up covering a leak in the garage ceiling. I found it water-stained and ruined. "Sorry," Dylan said when I confronted him, barely looking up from his laptop. "I didn't know you still wanted that one. It's been sitting there forever." Forever meant 6 weeks. Another time, I came home to find he'd thrown out my old paint tubes because they were cluttering the laundry room. Tubes I'd had since college, colors I'd mixed and experimented with, irreplaceable pigments that weren't made anymore. "I can buy you new ones," he said, annoyed that I was upset. "They're just paint." Just paint. Comments kept coming. During a dinner party with his colleagues, someone asked about my work, and Dylan jumped in before I could answer. "She paints," he said, grinning. "Maybe one day it'll be worth something if she gets famous posthumously." Everyone laughed. Even me, because what else could I do? But that night, lying in bed, I felt something inside me crack. Not break, not yet, but definitely fracture. I started hiding my work. Painting in secret. Protecting what mattered because the person who should have been protecting it was too busy making jokes at my expense. The night after the anniversary dinner, I didn't cry. I wait until Dylan is asleep. He falls asleep easily, untroubled by things like guilt or awareness, and I walk downstairs to the basement. Our basement is unfinished, concrete floor and exposed beams, filled with storage boxes and forgotten furniture. In the far corner, under a paint-stained sheet, is my easel. I haven't touched it in 4 months. Dylan suggested I take a break from painting to focus on us. What he meant was to focus on him, on his career, on being the kind of wife who attends his work functions without embarrassing him. I pull the sheet off slowly. Dust motes dance in the air, visible in the single bare bulb hanging overhead. The easel stands like an old friend who's been waiting patiently for me to return. I stare at the blank canvas mounted on it. white and empty and full of possibility. Then I pick up a brush. They think I'm a joke, fine. Let them laugh now. Let them enjoy their superiority while they can. Because I'm going to make sure I'm the one laughing last. I mix colors on my palette, cadmium red, burnt umber, titanium white, and make the first stroke. Then another. And another. I paint until dawn breaks through the basement window, until my back aches and my eyes burn, until the canvas is no longer empty but screaming with color and fury. I start painting at night. Every night. While Dylan sleeps upstairs, I'm in the basement transforming pain into art. I paint the way I used to before I met him, raw and unfiltered, letting the brush go where it needs to go. I paint a woman at a dinner table, smiling while 3 faces laugh around her. I paint hands reaching for something just out of frame. I paint mirrors that reflect different versions of the same person, each one smaller than the last. Painting is a piece of me he tried to erase. Each brushstroke whispers the same thing: you will remember me. I use every technique I learned in grad school. Impasto layers thick enough to cast shadows. Glazes that create depth and luminosity. I mix my own colors, grinding pigments by hand, creating shades that don't exist in tubes. Dylan notices I'm tired during the day. You should get more sleep, he says, not asking why I'm not sleeping. I just smile and nod. He notices I smell like turpentine sometimes. Are you painting again? He asks, and there's disapproval in his voice. Just a little, I say. Nothing serious. Nothing serious. That's what he wants to hear, so that's what I give him. But down in that basement, surrounded by my growing collection of canvases, I'm building something very serious. I'm building an escape route. I'm building proof that I exist beyond his definitions. I'm building a future where his opinion doesn't matter anymore. 3 weeks after the anniversary dinner, I'm scrolling through my phone at 2 a.m. Dylan's snoring beside me, oblivious when I see it. The Strathmore Gallery in downtown Atlanta is hosting their annual Emerging Artist Exhibition. I know Strathmore. Every artist in Atlanta knows Strathmore. It's not some small cooperative, gallery, or coffee shop display. It's the real deal. Critics attend. Collectors attend. Careers are launched there. The submission guidelines make my heart race. Anonymous entry. No names, no resumes, no artist statements. Just the work itself. They want 3 pieces, high-resolution images, and a submission fee of $50. I think about my basement full of paintings. I think about Dylan's voice saying finger paint. I think about Victoria's dismissive smile. Then I think, what if? I slip out of bed, careful not to wake Dylan, and tiptoe down to the basement. I spend the next hour photographing my 3 strongest pieces in the harsh overhead light, adjusting angles, trying to capture the texture and depth that makes them real. The first painting, Diminishing, the woman at the dinner table. The second, Inheritance, a portrait of hands passing down a crown made of thorns. The third, Glass Smile, a self-portrait where my reflection cracks but doesn't shatter. I filled out the submission form at 3:47 a.m. For an artist name, I don't use Mara Ellis. I use my middle name and maiden name, Quinn Barrett. Anonymous. Just the art speaking for itself. I hover over the submit button for a full minute, my finger trembling. Then I press it. And try to forget I ever did. 2 months passed. I almost forgot about the submission. Almost. Dylan's firm closes a big deal, and he's riding high, which means he's more tolerable at home. He even suggests we go to an art museum one Sunday. His idea of making an effort. We walk through the High Museum, and he spends the whole time checking his phone. When I stop in front of a Rothko, he says, I don't get it. It's just rectangles. It's about the emotion, I try to explain. The way the colors interact, the scale, It's rectangles, Mara. He's already walking toward the exit. You ready for lunch? We eat at a trendy spot in Midtown. He talks about work, some client, some deal, something that requires me to nod at appropriate intervals but not actually participate. My phone rings during dessert. Unknown number. I usually don't answer those, but something makes me excuse myself and step outside. Hello? Hi, is this Quinn Barrett? A woman's voice, professional but warm. My heart stops. Yes. This is Simone Whitaker from Strathmore Gallery. I'm calling about your submission to our Emerging Artist exhibition. The world narrows to just her voice and my rapidly accelerating pulse. We received over 400 submissions this year, she continues. Your work stopped us in our tracks. We'd like to feature all 3 of your pieces in the main gallery. Would you be available to discuss details? I can't breathe. I literally cannot form words. Ms. Barrett. Yes, I manage. Yes. I'm available. Wonderful. The exhibition opens in 6 weeks. Can you come by the gallery this Thursday to sign the contract and discuss installation? I agree to everything. When I hang up, I'm shaking so hard I have to sit on the curb. For the first time in years, someone saw my work and didn't see a hobby. They saw art. They saw me. The next few weeks blur together in the best possible way. I visited the gallery on Thursday, meeting Simone in person. She's in her 50s, elegant in that effortless way art people manage, wearing black and silver jewelry that looks like sculpture. Your work has such raw emotional honesty, she says, showing me where my pieces will hang. We had 3 curators fight over which wall got diminishing. That never happens. I signed the contract with Quinn Barrett's signature, a name that's legally mine but feels like armor. Protection. The gallery takes a 30% commission on any sales, which seems like nothing considering they're giving me wall space in their main exhibition room. Have you shown before? Simone asks. Small galleries, I lie. Nothing like this. Well, prepare yourself. Opening night brings serious collectors. And critics. She studies me. You ready for that? I think about Dylan sleeping while I painted. About Victoria's dismissive comments. About years of being made to feel small. I'm ready, I say. The lie is that I have no idea if I'm ready. The truth is that it doesn't matter. This is happening. I start going out more, visiting suppliers for better frames, meeting with Simone to discuss placement and lighting, attending a preview where other featured artists gather. Dylan notices my absences. Where were you? He asks when I come home one evening. Art supply store. He frowns. You're spending a lot of time on that hobby again. That word. Hobby. Like a knife that's lost its edge from overuse but still knows how to cut. It's just something I enjoy, I say mildly. He shrugs, already losing interest. As long as it doesn't interfere with real life. Real life. His life. His career, his dinner parties, his parents' approval. I smile and say nothing. But inside, I'm counting down the days until he sees what real life actually looks like. For weeks before the exhibition, Simone emails me the marketing materials. My pieces are featured prominently in the digital catalog. The write-up makes my throat tight. Quinn Barrett's work excavates the emotional archaeology of identity, revealing layers of selfhood that exist beneath social performance. I read it 5 times, memorizing every word. Then I see the guest list for opening night. Strathmore always invites their patron members, wealthy collectors who donate to the gallery and get first access to new work. Warren and Victoria Walker are on that list. Dylan's parents. Corporate art collectors who think they understand culture because they write tax-deductible checks and attend fundraisers. They have no idea that Quinn Barrett is me. Nobody does except Simone, who's contractually obligated to keep artist identities confidential until opening night. I sit at my laptop, staring at their names, and something close to joy rises in my chest. They're going to walk into that gallery. They're going to see my work. And they're going to have to confront the fact that the daughter-in-law they dismissed creates art that matters. That night at dinner, Dylan mentions the gallery opening. My parents got invited to some art thing at Strathmore, he says, cutting into his steak. They want us to come with them. My fork freezes halfway to my mouth. Strathmore? Yeah, some emerging artist exhibition. Mom likes going to those things, makes her feel cultured. He rolls his eyes. You want to go? Might be fun for you since you're into that stuff. Into that stuff. Like art is a phase I'll grow out of. Sure, I say, keeping my voice casual. I'd love to go. The night before the opening, I couldn't sleep. Dylan notices I'm restless. You okay? He mumbles, half asleep. Just excited about tomorrow, I say. Mom's excited too. She's been talking about the new artists all week. He yawns. I just hope the wine is decent. That's all it is to him. A social event where the wine quality matters more than the art on the walls. I lie there in the dark, listening to him drift back to sleep and replay the last 7 years in my mind. The small erosions, the dismissals, the way I shrank myself to fit his idea of who I should be. Tomorrow I will stop shrinking. I get up at dawn and try on 4 different outfits before settling on simple black pants and a silk blouse, elegant but understated. I don't want to look like I'm trying too hard. I want to look like someone who belongs. Dylan barely notices what I'm wearing. He's stressed about some work call he has to take before we leave. Can you handle my parents if I'm a few minutes late? He asks, adjusting his tie in the mirror. I'll manage, I say. Kisses my cheek absently, already mentally somewhere else. I touch the spot where his lips brushed my skin and feel nothing. That's when I really know that we're already over. He just doesn't realize it yet. Strathmore Gallery glows like a jewel box when we arrive. Warm light spills through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Inside, waiters circulate with champagne. Crowd hums with the particular energy of people who believe they understand art. Warren and Victoria are already there, holding court near the entrance. Victoria wears emerald green, her power color, and enough diamonds to fund a small country. There you are, she says when she sees us, air-kissing Dylan's cheek. She nods at me. Mara. Don't you look nice? The damning word that means nothing. Shall we look around? Warren suggests, already moving toward the main gallery. My heart hammers as we enter the exhibition space. The room is beautiful, white walls, track lighting, hardwood floors that echo with footsteps. And there, prominently displayed on the central wall, are my 3 paintings. A small crowd has already gathered in front of Diminishing. I watch Warren and Victoria approach it, champagne glasses in hand, studying the canvas with the critical eye of people who fancy themselves connoisseurs. Now this, Warren says slowly, this is real art. You can feel the emotion. Victoria leans closer. The technique is extraordinary. A look at the layering. Dylan peers at the painting with polite interest. Yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty good. I almost laughed. They move to Inheritance next, and I hang back, pretending to study another artist's work while secretly watching them react to mine. Whoever painted this understands pain, Victoria murmurs. If she only knew. Simone takes the small stage at the front of the gallery. Crowd quiets, turning to face her. Thank you all for joining us tonight, she begins. Her voice carries authority. Strathmore has been featuring emerging artists for 30 years, and each year we look for work that challenges us, that makes us feel something we didn't expect to feel. I stand at the back of the room, partially hidden behind a pillar. This year's exhibition features 12 talented artists, Simone continues. But tonight I want to draw your attention to one artist in particular, someone whose work has garnered extraordinary interest. Her pieces sold before we even open the doors tonight. Sold. All 3. I find out later that a collector from New York bought them sight unseen based on the digital catalog. Her work captures the quiet violence of being unseen, Simone says. The strength required to smile while breaking. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our featured artist, Mara Ellis. The room erupts in polite applause. Dylan's head whips around so fast I'm surprised he doesn't get whiplash. His eyes scan the crowd, looking for me. Warren's champagne glass actually trembles in his hand. Victoria's face goes through a fascinating series of expressions: shock, confusion, disbelief, and something that might be respect if she knew how to form that emotion. I step out from behind the pillar and walk toward the stage. My heels click against the hardwood floor, each step an announcement. Crowd parts for me. Simone extends her hand as I climb the 2 steps to the platform. Mara has been working in relative obscurity, she tells the crowd. Let tonight be the end of that. I take the microphone, my hands steady, and look directly at Dylan. Thank you all for being here, I say. My voice carries across the gallery. Art has always been how I make sense of the world, how I find truth in the spaces between words. Pause, letting the moment breathe. I want to especially thank those who taught me that silence can be a form of strength, that being dismissed gives you clarity. That underestimation is a gift, because it means nobody sees you coming. The applause is louder this time. Real. When I step off the stage, Dylan intercepts me before I can make it to the champagne table. You didn't tell me, he says. His face is flushed, anger or embarrassment, I can't tell which. Tell you what? I ask, genuinely curious what he thinks he deserves to know. That you were showing here. That you're the featured artist. His voice rises slightly before he catches himself, remembering we're in public. I didn't think you'd be interested, I say calmly. You know, since it's just finger painting. The words land like a slap. He flinches. Warren and Victoria approach, and Victoria does something I've never seen her do. She hesitates before speaking. Mara, dear, she begins, her voice saccharine, your work is absolutely stunning. We had no idea you were this accomplished. Now I'm accomplished. Now that strangers with money validated my work. I've been painting for years, I remind her gently. You've just never seen it. Well, we'd love to buy one of your pieces, Warren adds quickly, trying to recover ground. For the house. The foyer needs something. They're already sold, I interrupt. All 3. The silence that follows is delicious. The rest of the evening unfolds like a dream I'm watching from outside my body. Critics approach me asking about my process. A journalist from Atlanta magazine wants to schedule an interview. The collector who bought my pieces, a woman named Theodora Chen from Manhattan, introduces herself and talks about representing me in New York galleries. Chin. Not on my restricted list, but I need to track these things. Dylan hovers at the periphery, attempting to look supportive but mostly looking lost. His parents have disappeared, probably reeling from the discovery that their useless daughter-in-law is actually talented. Simone pulls me aside at one point. How does it feel? She asks, smiling. Surreal, I admit. Get used to it. Your career just started. The last guests filter out around 10. Dylan and I walk to our car in silence. I'm holding a folder full of business cards and exhibition invitations. He's holding his car keys and what's left of his ego. We're halfway home when he finally speaks. You could have told me. I tried to tell you for 7 years, I reply, staring out the window at the city lights. You just never listened. The fallout is immediate and spectacular. By Monday morning, the Atlanta arts community is buzzing. My 3 paintings are featured in the AJC's arts section. The headline reads, Local artist Mara Ellis emerges as major talent. Dylan's phone won't stop ringing. His boss calls to congratulate him, mentioning that one of the firm's biggest clients, Theodora, specifically mentioned she'd purchased my work. She wants to meet for lunch, Dylan tells me, sounding dazed. She wants to talk about representing you in New York. Do you know how big that is? I do know. That's exactly what I've been working toward while he slept. At his office, colleagues keep asking why he never mentioned his wife's art career. Dylan has no good answer. He makes vague comments about wanting to let me find my own path and not wanting to overshadow her achievement. The lies taste bitter even secondhand. His boss, Marcus, pulls him aside after a meeting. "You never told me Mara was a serious artist," Marcus says. It's not quite an accusation, but it's close. "I didn't realize she was showing," Dylan stammers. Marcus frowns. "You didn't know your own wife had work in Strathmore's feature exhibition?" "That seems unlikely." Dylan has no response. The truth that he belittled my work so thoroughly I stopped mentioning it isn't something he can say out loud. That evening, Victoria called me directly. Not Dylan me. "Mara, darling," she begins, and I can hear the calculation in her voice. "Your father and I were thinking we should host a celebration dinner. For your success." "That's not necessary," I say. "But we're so proud." The words sound rehearsed. "You're proud now," I corrected her. "Now that other people told you my work matters." She sputters. "That's not, we always believed in you." "Victoria," I interrupt gently, "you called my art a hobby. You asked if I'd ever thought about a real career. You suggested I take classes in something practical." The line goes quiet. "I remember every word," I continued. "Every dismissal. Every condescending smile. You don't get to rewrite history just because it's convenient now." "You're being very sensitive," she says, her voice cooling. "Or maybe you were just cruel," I reply, and hang up before she can respond. Theodora flies down from New York 2 weeks later. We meet at a cafe in Midtown, her choice neutral territory. She's in her 60s, wearing all black, her silver hair cut in a sharp bob. She looks like what success ages into when it's earned, not inherited. "Your work is extraordinary," she tells me after we order coffee. "Raw but controlled. Emotional but not sentimental. That's a rare balance." "Thank you. I want to represent you. Not just in New York, I have connections in London, Berlin, Los Angeles." She slides a folder across the table. "This is my standard contract. Read it carefully, get a lawyer to review it, but know this, I only represent artists I believe in. And I believe in you. Contract offers a 3-year representation with guaranteed shows in major markets. Commission structure is fair. Terms are professional." I signed it the next day. When Dylan finds out, he's supportive in that performative way that feels like he's reading lines. "That's great, honey. Really great." But I notice he flinches when I mention I'll need to travel to New York for meetings. That I'll be spending more time in my studio. That this isn't a hobby anymore, it's a career. His colleagues at the firm treat him differently now. At a company dinner, the wives cluster around me, asking about my process, my inspiration, my next show. Dylan stands off to the side, watching his wife become interesting to people who matter to him. Marcus approaches him during cocktail hour. "You're a lucky man," he says, clapping Dylan on the shoulder. "My wife collects art. She's already asking when Mara's work will be available again." "I'll let her know," Dylan says stiffly. Later that night, driving home, he's silent until we're almost at the house. "Do you enjoy this?" he asks suddenly. "Enjoy what?" "Embarrassing me. Making me look like an idiot who didn't recognize his wife's talent." I turn to look at him fully. "I didn't do that, Dylan. You did that to yourself." The invitation arrives 3 months later, a solo exhibition at the Whitmore Gallery in Manhattan. My first major show. 12 new pieces, a full catalog, opening night with press and collectors. Theodora calls to discuss details. "This is going to establish you," she says. The New York art world is watching. I paint like I'm possessed. I clear out the basement, set up proper lighting, work 16-hour days. Each piece is bigger, bolder, more honest than the last. I paint Dylan, not his face, but his presence. a shadow looming over a woman who's learning to stand in light. I paint Victoria and Warren as marble statues with perfect exteriors and hollow cores. I paint myself as a phoenix, not rising from ashes but choosing to burn in the first place. Dylan watches my obsession with growing unease. "Are you coming to bed?" he asks one night, standing at the basement door. "Later," I say, not looking up from my canvas. "We need to talk. Tomorrow." But tomorrow never comes. We exist in the same house like ghosts haunting different rooms. The opening is scheduled for a Friday in October. Dylan books a flight, a hotel room, makes all the appropriate motions of a supportive husband. But 2 days before we're supposed to leave, he comes home with news. "I can't make it," he says, not meeting my eyes. "Marcus needs me here for the Riverside deal." "It's too important." I set down my wine glass carefully. "You're not coming to my show." "I'll come to the next one," he promises. "This one just has bad timing." Bad timing. My first solo show in New York has bad timing. "Okay," I say calmly. He looks surprised. Okay. Don't come." I fly to New York alone, and the relief I feel boarding that plane tells me everything I need to know about my marriage. The Whitmore Gallery is everything I dreamed of and more. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan. White walls that make colors sing. My paintings hung with precision and care, each piece given space to breathe. Opening night, I wear red, bold and unapologetic. Theodora introduces me to collectors, critics, gallery owners from London and Berlin. My work generates the kind of buzz that usually takes years to build. The New York Times sends a critic who describes my work as unflinchingly honest, excavating the quiet violence of domestic diminishment. All 12 pieces sell within 2 hours. My phone buzzes with texts from Dylan. "How's it going?" "I wish I could be there." "Proud of you." Empty words from a man who chose work over the most important night of my life. But I'm too busy to care. Too surrounded by people who see my work, my worth, my future. A collector from Los Angeles offers me studio space. A gallery in Berlin wants to schedule a show for spring. Theodora is fielding calls from journalists who want interviews. I stand in that gallery, surrounded by my art, and realize I don't need Dylan's validation anymore. I don't need his parents' approval. I don't need to shrink or hide or apologize for taking up space. I am enough. I've always been enough. I return to Atlanta changed. Not in obvious ways, but in the quiet certainty that settles in your bones when you finally understand your own worth. Dylan picks me up from the airport. "How was it?" he asks, like I've returned from a vacation rather than a career-defining event. "Good," I say simply. He tries to engage, asks about the show, the sales, the reviews. But his questions feel obligatory, boxes he's checking to seem like a caring husband. At home, nothing has changed. His dishes in the sink. His laundry on the bedroom floor. The same man living the same life, oblivious to the fact that his wife has fundamentally transformed. That night, he reaches for me in bed and I turn away. "What's wrong?" he asks. "Everything, I think. Nothing you'd understand." "I'm tired," I say. The next morning, Theodora calls with news. A collector wants to commission a piece. 5 figures. More money than I've made in a year of teaching part-time at the community college where I've been picking up classes. "He saw your work in New York," Theodora explains. "Wants something for his private collection. You interested?" "Yes," I said immediately. Dylan overhears. When I hang up, he's standing in the kitchen doorway, coffee mug in hand. 5 figures, he asks. "For one painting?" "That's what she said." He nods slowly, and I watch something shift in his face. Pride? No. Something closer to resentment. His wife, the one with the useless degree, is suddenly making real money. Money that doesn't depend on him, his family, or their connections. "That's great," he says, but his tone suggests otherwise. Over the following weeks, his behavior grows more erratic. He picks fights over small things, dishes left in the sink, plans I make without consulting him, the time I spend in my studio. "You're never home anymore," he complains one evening. "I'm working," I reply. "On your art?" He says it like it's still not real work, even with the commission checks clearing our joint account. "Yes, Dylan. On my art. The thing you called finger painting 6 months ago." His jaw tightens. "I was joking." "No, you weren't." We stare at each other across the kitchen island, two people who've run out of things to say that don't draw blood. The breaking point comes during Thanksgiving. We're at his parents' house, the sprawling estate in Buckhead with the circular driveway and the fountain that doesn't run in winter. Victoria has invited extended family, friends from the club, people I've smiled at for years without actually knowing. At dinner, someone asks about my work. Before I can answer, Victoria jumps in. "Oh, Mara's become quite the celebrity," she gushes. "Her show in New York was very successful. We're so proud, we always knew she had talent." The lie is so blatant I almost choke on my wine. "That's not true," I say quietly. Table goes silent. Forks pause midway to mouths. "I'm sorry." Victoria's smile freezes. "You didn't always know. You spent years telling me to get a real job. You called my work a hobby. You suggested I take accounting classes." Warren clears his throat uncomfortably. Dylan stares at his plate. "Mara," Victoria says, her voice tight, "this isn't the time." "When is the time?" I interrupt. "When is the appropriate moment to acknowledge that you spent 7 years making me feel worthless? That you laughed at my degree? That you treated me like I was an embarrassment to your family?" The silence is deafening. "You only care now because other people validated my work," I continued. "Because collectors and critics said I matter. But I've always mattered. You just couldn't see it." I stand up, placing my napkin beside my plate with careful precision. "Thank you for dinner," I say to the shocked faces around the table. "I'll be leaving now." Dylan follows me to the car, his face scarlet. "What the hell was that?" "The truth," I reply, unlocking the door. "You humiliated my parents. They humiliated me for years. I just finally stopped pretending it was okay." He grabs my arm, not hard but firm enough to stop me. "We need to talk about this." I look down at his hand on my arm, then up at his face. "No, we don't. We needed to talk about this 7 years ago. Before you let your parents treat me like garbage. Before you made jokes about my degree. Before you chose their approval over my dignity." I pull away and get in the car. He doesn't follow. I moved out the week after Thanksgiving. Not to punish him, though it probably feels that way, but because I finally understand that I can't build a future in a house full of past resentments. I rent a loft in East Atlanta, one of those converted warehouse spaces with exposed brick and huge windows. It's half living space, half studio. Perfect. Dylan calls constantly. Leaves voicemails that oscillate between apologetic and accusatory. "We can work on this." "You're overreacting." "My parents didn't mean anything." "You're destroying our marriage." I don't call back. His parents send a letter, an actual letter on cream-colored stationery, apologizing for any misunderstandings and expressing their continued support. The word misunderstandings does all the work, transforming years of cruelty into simple miscommunication. I threw it away. My lawyer, yes, I hired a lawyer, sends Dylan separation papers. Not divorce, not yet. But a clear statement. We're living apart, I'm establishing financial independence, and he needs to stop calling. The legal process is surprisingly simple when you don't want anything from each other. I don't ask for alimony. He doesn't fight the separation. We split the house proceeds 50-50, divide the furniture, and never speak directly. Everything happens through lawyers, which suits me fine. 6 months later, I'm standing in my studio, my real studio, not a basement or garage, putting final touches on a piece for my upcoming show in Berlin. The painting is called Resilience. It shows a woman standing in rubble, but she's not destroyed. She's building, using the broken pieces to create something new. My phone rings. Theodora. "I have news," she says, and I can hear the smile in her voice. "The Tate Modern wants to feature your work in their contemporary exhibition. London next spring." This is major, Mara. Tate Modern. One of the most prestigious galleries in the world. I sit down, suddenly dizzy with the enormity of it. "Are you there?" Theodora asks. "I'm here," I manage. "I'm just processing." "Process fast. We need to select pieces and start planning. This is career-defining stuff." After we hang up, I sit in my studio, surrounded by canvases and paint-stained drop cloths, and let myself feel the full weight of this moment. 7 years ago, I married a man who thought my dreams were cute but impractical, who let his family treat me like a disappointment, who made me believe that wanting recognition for my work was selfish. Now I'm showing at the Tate Modern. Now galleries in 3 countries represent me. Now my work sells for 5 figures, sometimes 6. I didn't win because I got revenge. I won because I stopped letting other people define my worth. The Berlin show opens on a Friday in March. The gallery, Kunsthalle Modern, is sleek and minimalist, all clean lines and perfect lighting. My work hangs in the main space, bold colors against white walls. Crowd is international. Collectors from Tokyo, critics from Paris, gallerists from New York. They study my paintings with serious attention, the kind of focus that says they understand what they're seeing. I wear black, simple, elegant, confident. My hair is longer now, silver streaks I've stopped dyeing. I look like myself for the first time in years. Simone flew in from Atlanta. Theodora came from New York. Even my parents made the trip. My dad in his best suit, my mom wiping proud tears. "We always knew," Mom whispers, hugging me tight. "No, you hoped," I corrected gently. "There's a difference. But I'm grateful they're here. Grateful for people who loved me even when I was still becoming who I needed to be." The reviews are extraordinary. One critic writes, "Ellis paints the archaeology of selfhood, the layers we bury, the versions we kill, the woman who emerges when she stops apologizing for existing." All 15 pieces sell before the opening ends. I'm standing by the window, watching Berlin's lights sparkle like scattered diamonds when my phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. "Saw the review in The Guardian. Congratulations. You were right, I never really saw you. Dylan." I read it twice, then delete it. Some apologies come too late. Some bridges burn for good reason. Some doors close so others can open. I turn back to the gallery, to the life I built from ashes and oil paint, and smile. They called my degree useless. They called my dreams impractical. They called me sensitive, dramatic, and unrealistic. They were wrong about everything. Because the most powerful masterpiece you'll ever create isn't hanging in a gallery. It's the life they said you couldn't have. And I'm living proof.